From the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased to have my friend Max joining from Germany. Max, thank you very much for being on the show. The way I love to do it is keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So the floor is yours.
Pleasure to be here. Super excited. CTO Show sounds like right up my alley. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Max. I'm the co-founder of UniFire. I'm the product management, product business type of co-founder. So I do, UI design, analytics, and so on. And yeah, recently I did a bunch of things in tokenomics, so crypto, and came up with a startup idea because I create a lot of content, and I always, have the issue of not posting enough content, not repurposing the super valuable content I create. So that's how we came up with, the idea for UniFire, was I'm trying to find a category, but you could say it's a repurposing platform or a unique content scaling platform. And that's the main thing I'm working on. And yeah, trying to be juggle LinkedIn creator with startup founder at the moment.
Yeah, great. Out of curiosity, Max, what brought you to this field? To the technology field?
So I don't know, I always had ideas, so I think my first tech business idea I had when I was 19. I was just walking home and I was like, I really have this problem. For me, it was I studied in different cities and I wanted to meet new people. And I was like, this is really difficult. I don't want to go to meetups always. And that's how my first idea kind of came up. And then I was like, okay, but I don't have any skills in that space. So I was like, okay. Went to Udemy, thought okay, what's the easiest way? I'm visual. Let's do some UI design courses. Started reading some books, and then I tried studying computer science, but that never really worked. So I studied politics and sociology, but use that free time, by educating myself on analytics, on growth metrics, on UI design, and then me and my co-founder, we built a bunch of things, failed a bunch of things. We did build it and they will come, the classic mistakes. And we tried to build products that are way too big for us. We had the feature creep, we did every mistake in the book. And now it seems that for the first time it's going to work.
Yeah, that's great. And this is, the question that I ask every founder, and I ask founders even from non-technical and technical founders. So there must be, and you touched a little bit bills on it, but there must be something that you felt, it's a problem that you are facing and others facing it when you decided to start UniFire. So what is the genesis, I would say, that, you said, what, I have to build this. This is the problem I want to solve.
Yeah, so I really had that issue. I was sitting on these recordings and all of this content, and the content was with C's involved, hedge funds, really smart consultants, so beautiful transcript of extremely smart people with really deep knowledge and insight. And I was like, how this should be a blog post. I should create LinkedIn posts out of it. And I don't know if you know that, but I used to be a podcast guy, so I do my podcast. I post about it once, maybe I post about it twice, and then I take the time to create a really cool new episode again. And I was like, it makes no sense. I have these assets lying around and they're beautiful, they're deep, we could do so much more with them. And then we started playing around with GPT, and I was like, okay, got to do this. I was like, this needs to be there. Like I have an idle asset lying around, I need to utilize it. That's how we basically came up with this whole thing. And yeah, we're doing this for 7 months now, from like a very interesting, shitty version to now a more and more elaborate product.
That's great, Max. And like again, it's the reason I asked the question again is to inspire fellow people who they want to start building something. Like you solved your own problem first, and then you've seen like many other people have the same issue. Now, but of course, the road was not all pink and rosy, right? So you must have faced some challenges while launching. So what were the biggest challenges, and how did you overcome them?
Some really big challenges are simply around like human perception of markets, AI products, and so on. Because I was like, we want to scale existing content, right? And generative AI, all the startups in VC are pouring money into, I can generate something from scratch. Out of thin air, I can create tons of content. And I was like, I always assumed UniFire idea is an obvious one, but I don't see many people building in that space yet. I personally assume 15 people are going to be on that, as soon as the stuff comes up. So, telling people, hey, no, we are not an AI writer, like that was already a challenge. And then obviously, coming from that, all the, let's say AI and LLM style problems. For example, I know it sounds robotic, what should we build first? A classic one is like, this could be for everyone. So how do I find my first ICP, the ideal customer profile? Things like these used out really hard because okay. Got a call or okay, yeah. So I would say, the classic one is, like try to explain and position your product is so hard that obviously, all the technical things. One thing I realized, for example, is like user experience and UI design, interaction design with generative AI products is a lot different to, doing like traditional SaaS in a way. And yeah, there's like a lot of mistakes you can do.
Why is that, Max? I'm curious to know this. Why it's different than traditional SaaS?
Yeah, so in my experience, what I realized is like you give a lot of control away from the user experience to like a language model. So like if you have, it's easy, right? You have like an input level, you have I would say a language model in the middle and an output level, right? So in all of these places, you can, a mistake can happen. For example, our users upload something that may be way too technical or it's bad quality or whatever. It's already ruined. And then the language model, you don't like, you do the prompt engineering and you have to iterate. It's very hard to get like one like thing that works for everyone. And then in the output level, it's really dependent on what came in. So in traditional SaaS, like a Miro or a Canva, right? Like I can control every pixel. I can control how the features look, how they behave. And in here, I'm like, okay, a lot of things that are like lots of dimensions. I call them dimensions of user experience. They just changed and are dependent on external factors I have to manage.
That's interesting. But do you think, are we going to see, and you said like we are not seeing much, but do you predict that we're going to see more SaaS providers integrating AI in the future?
I personally think there's an insane amount of places where you could put these, these language models inside, right? Notion did it. I don't know. It's like super valuable. Canva is I think an obvious one. I'd love to just, take my brand guidelines, my templates from Canva and fill them automatically in ChatGPT. It kind of works already. But even if we go deeper into tech tools, I found super cool. There's merge.dev and other people trying out. For example, integrations for SaaS founders are just a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
Really, like, I should probably already thinking about the 150 most important integrations, and there are now tools that take language models, they read the documentation, they look at the data schemas, and they try to model both so that I can get data from my app into another app. And, even automatically code some of the code for the integration, saving huge amounts of time, right? So I think, people think about the content and the information stuff. There's so much more we can do.
Now, maybe I will ask you a controversial question. Now, because of AI, I've read it somewhere, and I think even when I was doing solo episodes, like some people claim that because of AI, SaaS business might decline. And the reason is, if anyone can build something like using AI tools, so why do you need to rely on a provider to give you this service? What do you think about that?
I think they have a valid point. One thing we realize already is the large language model providers and ChatGPT, they will not build most of the functionality. Plugins are nice to have, and they're really good for simple use cases, but it would, destroy the whole purpose of a plugin if they become really sophisticated software products. So obviously stuff like the content repurposing from UniFire, that's going to be integrated into Google Docs as well. But will Microsoft integrate short video content? Will they integrate scheduling and external social media analytics? I don't think so. It doesn't make sense for their business strategy. They would need to build an entire unit based on that. So, I think there's going to be a lot more consolidation, I would say, in SaaS.
Yeah.
It's like, if you look at these 80 or 100 analytics tools that all silo the stuff and do the same thing, I think it's going to be very easy to just, combine them into 3 or 4, because why, everyone can basically spin up these solutions. So yeah, it's probably going to be harder, but the trend I'm seeing at the moment is the opposite, and people just launching hundreds of shitty tools. 95% of these tools are absolute garbage. It's insane. So yes, but I think it's gonna be with all hype cycles, it's gonna be a massacre. 95% of these tools die off, and then there's gonna be a lot of really cool SaaS tools that integrate and build with AI.
And to your point, I think people are even paying for these tools, right? Yeah. So another thing, when you build around AI, and again, just it's not like I want to hurt any brand. Okay, let me not give the brand name. So there are these tools that were built before ChatGPT went out, and they do the copywriting, right? So plenty of them. We can name even some of them, like Copy.ai, Jasper, and all these. And then all of a sudden, what these guys have built became available without relying on them. So now, if I'm a founder today, and because Max, you have spent a lot of time on trying to get, how to evaluate a good AI business idea, how do I make sure that I can sustain as long as possible before one of the big names like OpenAI, maybe Google, maybe Microsoft, maybe Meta, Facebook, they come up and they embed this in their offering? So how we can plan this in a way that still we can have valid business? I mean, on the long term, we need to be sustainable also as well. What do you think about that?
So one thing I realized was and this is not something very elaborate, but so there's a lot of things or dimensions LLMs are really good at. So I would for me, there's 7 dimensions. And, in the beginning, it starts with stuff like summarization, synthesis, so transforming information in any way. That's a really easy use case. And these are your meeting AIs, Otter AI. they're extreme. Like Ask My PDF, I think on these, on Product Hunt or whatever, there's 150 of them, right? It's easy to build, and they're basically the LLM in a nicer UX. It's like, S3 buckets with a nicer UX, like from like 10 years ago. And these are easy to copy. They're basically the LLM. It's pointless. Can be replaced by plugins. But if we go now and go up these dimensions, so another would be categorization, or extraction. So you have like a large data set and you find leads that fit to you, or crypto you want to invest in, so based on some patterns. Then you come into like the more advanced, more advanced abilities, for example. So exploration, like that's what the military is doing, and then, the Chinese and the Americans. So exploring a military battlefield, supply lines, outcomes. You could even, a friend of mine is exploring token economies, or like autonomous agents that you really build on your unique insights and methodology. So for example, if SAP builds autonomous agents on their, resource planning data, their ideas. And obviously, the more you move up, the more you move into personalization, representation, like you can be their resource planner or something, then they become more unique, they become more complex, and they will be really a representation of what you are uniquely good at. And that's really hard to copy. And especially, and once you can personalize that to the inputs of the user, I think that's a business already that's fairly unique. And obviously you have all the other APIs of like transcription services, data analytics, machine learning. So only by taking different models, so maybe you can combine OpenAI and Claude, then you can combine transcription, image generation, and you go for unique insights and methodologies. You're already in a space where it's like really hard to copy. And, going from there, I don't think OpenAI will ever want to build something, a language model or a process that's really focused on enterprise resource planning. It doesn't make any sense for them if they want to be that compute platform where everybody builds on, right? So I think that's already a really nice way to think like, hey, how can I make a really unique use case in the beginning instead of just Ask My PDF?
So this is where, it's not about getting the idea. It's also about getting, the validation and being unique, right, Max? Like this is the most important thing. Now, you mentioned something interesting, two things actually. So let me start by the first one. So you said, maybe one way to do it is to mix and blend things together. And like, I know like you have the background on blockchain. Like maybe it's a good idea to start leveraging, these LLM, large language models and AI APIs to create a new use case with some other emerging technologies like blockchain maybe, or I don't know, maybe XR, VR, all these things. What do you think about that?
I mean, absolutely. So, like a friend of mine, a developer, for example, he built a use case for lawyers. And so they can do mock trials, the word, which are really expensive. Usually you set them up there, 10 lawyers and, like a judge, and it's like a role play simulation. And obviously if you set like in a high firm, 10 people with an hourly rate of $1,000 into a room for 8 hours, you can imagine how expensive that is. So, but he was like, he used LLMs, put them into like this VR application, and where you can tell the language model basically, hey, this is the case, this is the mock trial, this is roughly how it goes. These are the participants, put on a VR set and go. It's very, it's a very POC and it's like an MVP stage, but you can already see this is a use case that makes total sense for training, for education. Why not? So yeah, that's a potential, and especially if someone from the legal tech side builds it, why not?
Right. The other thing you mentioned about the autonomous, agents, right? So there are a lot of them. I mean, like a couple of months back, the first like AutoGPT, Baby AGI, these frameworks came. Recently, I've seen the Meta GPT also as well as another one. Um, how promising are these? I don't know if the framework is the right one, or is it like what should we call them first? And the second, um, like I've seen people who build full applications and full SaaS platforms using these tools. Like, what do you see? What do you think about these frameworks, if we can call them frameworks?
Yeah, and I think if you build them, and that's the big promise, if you build them really on your unique knowledge you acquired over decades, for example, I don't know, SAP does that for a manufacturing plant and resource planning. Like nobody has that much knowledge in the world than SAP. Give this, like make it an agent, give it to your consultants, give it to your junior consultants. It's going to be hugely powerful, right? Like coding stuff seems to be, that's probably one of the, I mean, it's not easy. It's crazy that it works, right? But if we go into like the more advanced things, I think this is definitely a really cool way of, doing things. And I think they're super promising. If, under the premise that you build them on something that's really unique.
Mm-hmm. Like little bit of a futuristic question. What do you think, the most promising development would be in this field of generative AI? And I don't like to ask now, usually I used to ask people, what do you think will happen after 5 years or like after 10 years? Now I think I should ask in the short term, I mean 2 years, because I know like many things will change. So what are you seeing from your readings and observations?
Yeah, I think Meta GPT is really cool, right? I think developers will have more, let's say, agent assistants, and especially someone that is really good at documentation. Like Copilot is already doing a lot of things. I assume that there's going to be something like Meta GPT where you can just select a few agents and say like, I want this guy. This is my documentation style. I'm training my documentation style. Maybe here's another one that, is uniquely able to create data schemes for my integrations or something. So I assume developers in the future will have, or like maybe I have an analytics expert that I plug in and tells me, hey, Max, I think your data makes no sense, right? Like there might be, so I assume we're going to have some form of like different set of these agents helping us in specific fields. I don't see them replacing us. Like they can write code, but like I tried a bunch of these UI tools, for example, and I want to do it in Figma. It's more precise and it's better for my vision. But I'm surely like I, for example, need a support because I'm bad at typography and shadows and colors. Somebody could tell me, look, man, I think your design system is just bad. So like a design system agent that tells me, you want to be on brand with Figma and all the big ones. That's what you got to change. I think that's going to be the next 1 or 2 years, surely.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Max, the biggest, I'm not sure how they're going to try to solve this out, to your point, and it's related to content. And when I say content, not only written content, I don't mean only text. I mean even, pictures or images or videos, because at the end of the day, these large language models are trained on existing data, right? So I cannot see, at least for the moment, unless there is a work in the background. And I discussed this with a couple of guests. Some of them, they say, no, it will be able to create, to have its own creativity, because, for example, now, if you look to the past 2 years, any SaaS landing page, it goes by a little bit dark, it has this, violet color. But maybe this the trend will change. So will AI be able to find something, and how it can understand that, like humans will like it? Because at the end of the day, I have to interact with that. Like, and this is, the question is content creation. Like how is that changing? Because, now we are getting, the output from things that we provided input to. So what will happen in the future?
Also, I'm a strong proponent of, stuff like what we're doing now. The value of this conversation, for example, will be exponentially higher in the future, because like everybody can create a shit ton of content, automated YouTube channels. They're quite good, they even like they work through proper news and stuff. But really, what AI is gonna be still like, its limitations gonna be at creating unique insights, new knowledge, new frameworks. Like I could ask ChatGPT, hey, tell me the dimensions of abilities and language models. Build me a framework out of it. I'm sure something's good gonna come out of it, but you need unique knowledge to even prompt that and ask it. So I think, the 5% of the creators on top that are really like knowledge creators, that create insights, that read a lot, they can use this just to scale to the moon. So I don't, that AI flood of content is gonna happen, but I don't think it's gonna be 90% shit. So most of the stuff's just gonna die. Right? So
Yeah.
also kind of like the vision we are trying to do. It's just like we take someone like you and say, like, you're a technical guy, you create amazing content. We just want to scale your insights, the way you speak, based on what you create everywhere on our platforms, right? So that's really the focus. And I think that's going to be amazing with AI. So, and I think it's also the reason why these Jaspers and stuff struggle, because like I tried to do it on my tokenomics content or Gen AI, but it's just not good enough. It's too robotic. It doesn't understand me, right? It's good if you want to do a e-commerce landing page for tea or something. Perfect. But
Yeah, definitely. And the human factor will, in my opinion, Max, will be always there, because unless, again, as you mentioned, to your point, like if they change the way how, there was a very famous thing in electrical engineering. I still remember it. I struggled to understand when I was at college. It's called feedback loop, right? So if they manage to get the feedback loop, and again, I was talking to a guest the other day, using neural networks and all this technology, they might do some breakthroughs over there. But still, without that, to your point, like I tried a bunch of tools that generate videos, that they generate, and logically they do perfect, but they are still robotic, because you can feel there's no creativity over there. And I agree with you, and this is why someone joked at me the other day and said, you know what, maybe you don't have to do the podcast, because there will be some other AI agent. You just make it, he looks like you, and he would be talking to people and even maybe talking to other agents as well. So I said, yeah, but it would not be authentic. It would be very boring. And I'm not sure these faceless YouTube videos, I'm not sure how they are able to make that impressions now. But I believe at some stage, Max, this will, it's like something that will fade, because if you just repeating an information which is already existing in other videos, okay, let's watch this cool thing. But again, I'm not sure. I have it's my own opinion on this matter. So nevertheless. So yeah, Max, what other cool things are you doing? Like what other cool startup things are you doing?
I mean, I'm that creative guy, so I always have too many ideas. One thing I would love to do is, for example, the B2B lead gen is an absolute pain in the ass, because like the way I target people is so specific that none of these databases can really do it. So, I could imagine, for example, connecting to the LinkedIn API, a language model that, for example, scans the profile and tells me, okay, my customers could be people that do webinars, live events, conferences, podcasts as well. So, and they have like maybe 6,000 followers, they're engaged, blah, blah, blah. That's, for example, a product where I could imagine that's something we actually might build internally, because it's such a pain to use the other stuff. And especially for someone like, where now I have a very precise idea of who I want to target. And the other thing is personalized learning. I think, I have two extremely useless university degrees. For one, international technology management in England, I paid 15K for, outdated knowledge management. I still learn Porter's 5 forces and all this rubbish. So I'm always self-learning. I'm like doing cohort-based courses and stuff. So I'm like, I think that traditional education is obsolete. But one reason why I hated school was it was so boring. It was always the same. Okay, we learn Spanish with Clara goes to Madrid, blah, blah, blah. And now I know a startup where you can learn Spanish, for example, and it's really focused on tech or politics or sociology or something that interests me. So all the lessons are, for example, personalized to what I'm interested in. And that would be like such a huge gain for me, right? So this is super exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we discussed it also here on the show, that the current model is obsolete, is absolutely obsolete. And I don't know how. This is usually what happens when tech starts to enlighten people, I would say. They will resist for a while, but after some time, I'm not sure how much is this some time, people will figure out, hey, hold on 1 second. No, I'm not buying what you're telling me, and I believe this is something happening very, very soon. Not how soon, I don't know, but yeah. And Max, where people can know more about you and your work.
Yeah, so people can always go to UniFire.AI. That's the startup.
But it's the link.
You're gonna put that into the things anyway. So it's with fire, not fire, the burning fire, and then obviously on LinkedIn. I also try to go on Twitter soon because LinkedIn is
or we should call it X.
Yeah, I think it's gonna take a while until people call it X, but
I still see people that they say, no, we're gonna keep calling it Twitter. Sorry, Elon Musk, we're gonna keep it calling Twitter, not X. But anyway, nevertheless. So Max, really, you enlightened us on a lot of points, and especially for, anything you want to advise anyone who's on the verge to start something in this space, any advice you can tell fellow entrepreneurs before we close?
For us, it was a very, my advice is going to be very contrarian because everyone in startup world now says build something MVP-ish and launch fast. And I think, in generative AI, there's so many startups just coming out and they're all bad and people, they're going to be tired of this. So for us, we have 0% churn because we spent the first 3 months or 4 months really analyzing the market, talking to a bunch of people, solving our own problems and really obsessing over the first features and functionality. It's still hard, but don't just dump something shitty on the market and then expect people to give feedback. This is, everyone says build, launch fast and get feedback. But, if you want to have one thing, then build it well, take your time and then launch it to the market. I think that's really.
Yeah. I think, Max, this is, it's early validation before they'll build and throw things in front of people. This is 100% I agree with you on this one because now, as we were saying, it's very easy to put, guys, let me confess to you something. I've put 3 or 4, let's call them micro SaaS tools, and even I shared them on LinkedIn. And guess what? It took with me 30 minutes to build this up. But you need to see if there is a market for this. So as Max, you're 100% right. And even we advise people not to put a lot of things that without validating the market. So and important also, AI is changing the landscape. So I agree with you 100% on this. Anything I missed, Max, I should have asked you?
I don't think so. I think we're doing pretty good,
Okay. Good. It's not a tricky question. It's just to make sure that I didn't miss anything that you might wanted to say. So this is why I asked this question at the end. Max, really, I appreciate the time. Thank you very much for being with me here today. And this is to the audience, guys. Like, thank you very much for tuning in. As usual, keep the feedback coming. I love to read, your notes that you sent to me by email or sometimes on LinkedIn. I'm like Max. I am on Twitter/X, but not very active. So, thank you for sharing the feedback. And don't be shy to write even things you think I should make better. Like, I love compliments, of course, but I love also like constructive feedback. So also don't be shy. And if you're interested to be on the show as well, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll, be more than happy to discuss this, and we can make the arrangement, because my goal is, as much as possible, if you have a cool idea, you're working on something cool, or you have a story to share with fellow technology enthusiasts and startup founders, or to be founders or entrepreneurs, please bring that in. This is what we are trying to do on the show. And again, thank you very much. We'll meet again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button. Share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.